Guess who has just finished reading 82 books this year? Hi, it's your favorite bookworms, Helly. And this year's reading challenge is going strong. And since I have read quite a few books so far this year, I thought it only makes sense to tell you guys about the best and the worst books that I've read so far, so that I can recommend you some amazing reads that you may not even have heard about before and save you from the trendy reads that I thought would be great but they turned out to be pretty shit. So without any further ado, let us get started with this video. I have read books in all sorts of formats. It totally depends on what you prefer. For me, if I'm busy, I'll listen to an audiobook. If I want to wind down for sleeping, I'll read a physical book. And if I have a random routine, I will probably go and read on my iPad or device. So it's totally up to you. Also, it depends on how much pricey the book is. Some books are a little more affordable for me in audiobook and ebook format, so it's totally up to you. Now let me tell you about all the best books that I have to recommend, because let's start with the best. I have some physical books right here. I think the first book that I would like to recommend would be The Lonely City. It's a non-fiction, it's a collection of essays. If you are someone who has gone through that feeling of emptiness and loneliness in a big city, you're planning a move, you have already had a move, this is a book that you'll find so relatable that it'll feel like Olivia is just a friend of yours who has written to you. I've recommended this book previously on my channel, but it's definitely one of the top books that I've read this year. I'm consciously putting efforts into reading more essays and essay style works, because that's going to help me become a better writer. And at least in my field, being a good writer helps a lot. I don't think there's anybody for whom it will not help to be a good writer, so this book is a must read. Please do give it a go. It's available for about 300 or 400 rupees on Amazon last I checked, and it's pretty much value for money. After non-fiction, we'll go to fiction, and this book is called Lemon. This is a Korean novel in translation that I heard as an audiobook. It's about the death of a sister, and many years later the other sister is still looking for answers. There's a lot of people who are suspect, their perspectives, and the best thing about this book was it really did not give you, spoiler alert, it really does not give you an answer to who is the killer. It's just the perspectives and the psyches of people that it explores. And I think that is so profoundly unique in the thriller genre, because not a lot of books do that. We still at the end get to know who did it, but not with this book. Of course, you can make your own speculations, but I think our speculations will tell us more about ourselves than who is the real killer in reality. So that's why I really found this book very fascinating. Another book that I loved reading this year was one of Annie Ernaux's works, Simple Passion. Now, I have read almost every book by Annie Ernaux, who is the Nobel laureate for last year, 2022. But I absolutely was thrilled by Simple Passion, because the passion of the book is actually really something that stands out. It's about a woman, of course, in this case, the narrator, who is enamored by a lover. Okay, she's having an affair with a married man, and this affair just consumes her. And of course, this is a real story of her own life. So she talks about how helpless she felt at that time when she was in love with this man. If any of you have actually experienced that kind of passion in life, you will definitely find it beautiful to read. If you have not, you'll definitely feel like you missed out on something. Overall, I think the message of this book was, it's only in retrospect that you can really understand yourself and what you were going through. You know, when we are in love, we are like really crazy about someone, we do batshit crazy stuff, and it's only in retrospect that we think, oh, what the hell was I up to? So there's a lot of rawness to this book, and also any Annie Ernaux book that you pick up, there's a lot of layers of reality, like death, college, education, prejudice. These are a lot of topics that she touches on, and she deals with them phenomenally, which is why I really enjoy reading her works. But if you had to pick one book, I would recommend Simple Passion. Of course, it's definitely for adults, 18 plus audience, because there's a lot of graphic details sometimes. So yeah, please, no kids, please. The next book I'll recommend will be Dangers of Smoking in Bed. It's an uncanny book. It is a collection of a lot of short stories, yes, and yeah, I don't think I could really describe the kind of stories they have there. If you can see and make assumptions from the cover image, you will probably be right in assuming what the book is about. It's very uncanny. Like, there's only one word that I can use for it, and that is uncanny. It's going to make you feel unsettled and uncomfortable, and I think that is something that I really liked about this book. I like books that make me feel uncomfortable, and yeah, that's why I really liked it. Next book is a non-fiction book that I really like. It's called The Science of Getting Rich. I got to know about this book while I was on a prospect call, and this prospect of ours was very much into this book, and her product was kind of based on this book. So she told us that if we want to work with her, we should definitely read this book, and that's when I gave this book a read. It's a very good read. If you're somebody who has already read a lot of books about money mindset, this book is still going to feel new to you, although it is probably one of the oldest classics in this genre. It's a beautiful book. I highly recommend it. Another non-fiction book that I really liked was The 150 Million Secret. Why I like this book is because it's by someone who has actually been there, done that. It's written by Guillaume Mubish. I hope that I am pronouncing it right, because it's a French name and Indians murder French like anything else, I'm sure. This book was so good. So he's the founder of this company called Lempire, Lemlist, all of these softwares, and I really like reading about his journey. He breaks down a lot of things into simpler terms for those who are growing their own businesses from scratch, and a lot of those concepts were very new to me, although I do read a lot of books in this genre, and of course I'm exposed to a lot of content in this genre thanks to my job. So despite all of that, since I found this book new, I highly recommend it to you. If you want to make it big with business, I'm sure this book will have a lot of things for you that you'll really find entertaining. A short pamphlet of a book I loved is People from My Neighborhood. You know, I loved the stories so much. There's a sense of magical realism, but basically this is about a narrator living in a neighborhood and all the families living there. So while each chapter is a short story about a particular family, some stories interconnect, some stories intersect, some people have more than one chapter dedicated to them, and yeah, it's basically a very beautiful novel. My favorite part was about rivals, Yoko 1 and Yoko 2, which is basically two girls with the same name, same everything else, so they are named like that, Yoko 1 and Yoko 2, and their constant live rivalry. You know, in my school it was very normal for two people with the same name to be called number 1, number 2, or by their initials of their surnames. So it really brought back that fond memory of school. But the story was very different from what you'd expect, so please do give it a read. It's a beautiful book, and I love Japanese literature, so let me know if you want a specific video on Japanese literature. I would love to introduce you to some of the top works of Japan, because I did host a session for my book club last week, where we discussed a lot of amazing books, and they really loved it, so maybe you will like it too. And also, if you want to become a more active reader, please do consider joining my book club. It's only $2.99 for an entire year, and if you are an active participant, you stand to win much more than that. But above all, you will develop a reading habit, so please do join. I do host sessions there, and I do host a lot of discussion sessions there as well every month, so it would be lovely to meet you in a more intimate setting in case you are an avid reader. Next book that I recommend is called 9 Habits of Extreme Productivity, and again, all of you know that I've read a lot of books about productivity, so whenever something has something new, it surprises me. This book is written for those who want to make the best out of their day. If you feel like you're lagging behind, you feel like you're not being productive, and you need somebody to give you the push to make sure that you're getting things done, this book is the last book that you will need. So please go and give it a read. I'm sure you're gonna love it, and yes, I hope that it will make you more productive, because it has definitely made me. Also, if you're somebody who is into the niche of productivity, get the 75 productivity hacks from the website of System Sunday. It's amazing. It has so many new things that I really didn't know of before, so I hope that you'll find that helpful as well. And the last 2 books, which I have already talked about so many times before, so I'll not talk too much about them. Whereabouts by Jhumpa Lahiri. Short chapters about a woman going to various places, about her day, single woman in about her mid-40s, and all the things she has missed, not missed, friends she meets, people she meets, colleagues she meets, things she observes. It's a brilliant book. Then I also really liked All the Lovers in the Night by Mieko Kawakami. It's about a freelance editor who lives a very secluded life, and a man she meets and people she's friends with, which is really not a lot. There's a scene where she's meeting a really old friend, and how different their lives are now. It was very nice to read this book. So yeah, these are all my top favorite books of this year so far. And now I'm gonna tell you about the books that I really didn't like, and I regret reading, and I wish that I could have changed the way I spent my time, because reading them was definitely a waste of time. I think the biggest disappointment for me was this book called The Diary of an Oxygen Thief. The reason I picked it up is because it has a very psychologically attractive opening. Okay, for anybody who loves a psychological thriller, it has a very beautiful opening. I'll read it out for you. I liked hurting girls, mentally, not physically. I never hit a girl in my life. And then there's a part a little later, and it was legal. I think I killed a few of them. Their souls, I mean. It was their souls I was after. I know I came close a couple of times. But don't worry, I got my comeuppance. Anyway, so it's really attractive because it looks like it's a book written from the point of view of a psychopath, and you find it intriguing if you're a crime lover. So I liked it, the opening, so I bought this book because there was no other way I could get it. And it was disappointing, okay? I think only the beginning is strong, but overall there's no character arc, there's no, you don't really understand why the fuck this guy is so weird. There's nothing better in this, so it was definitely a waste of time. So a lot of people have read this book just by the first line because it's kind of gotten viral on book related reels, book talk. But yeah, it's totally not worth it. I didn't like Machine by Susan Steinberg. I think it's a very pretentious book. Although the plot and everything was good, I don't like pretentious writing style. I did not like this book called The Last Lesson of Mrs. D'Souza, which is about this teacher who's retiring and she's reminiscing about the day. And I'm gonna give a spoiler here because you wouldn't understand why I don't like this book. It's about a teacher who really regrets the fact that her student came out as gay to her, and she went ahead and told his father, and he killed himself because he couldn't take it. I mean, like, you feel nothing for this lady. Like, I'm not saying the plot is bad, I'm saying that the way it's written is pretty shit, okay? It's dealing with a lot of sensitive topics. It could have been written in a much better way, which is something I did not expect from the writer Cyril Wong. I have read other works of his. He's not that bad. So I don't know why this book was so disappointing, but I didn't like it. Don't recommend it. I read this book and quite a few books actually on ChatGPT and ChatGPT 4, Mastering the Multimodal Mind. All the books are so disappointing. You would rather invest in a good masterclass on ChatGPT or invest in a template pack. I have invested in a couple of template packs and it's definitely worth the investment, but the books are not. Please don't go for any book on ChatGPT unless I have certified it, okay? I am so confident that I have read almost all of them and I did not learn a lot of new things, so don't recommend it at all. There's a book called Love Letters to the Dead. Again, a very, very bad book. I think I was very much attracted to this book when it came out, so much so that I wrote to the publisher to send me a copy of the book, but the review copies were over by then. But somehow this book stuck to me and I always wanted to read it. It's a very bad book. It deals with the subject of suicide like it's nothing. And it's so pretentiously sad. I think majority of the books I don't like are books that have a very pretentious tone to them, wherein the character is not really suffering. It's just like for the sake of showing the character as suffering that the writer has written it that way. So yeah, these are the books I didn't like. Please save your time. All the books that I have read this year so far will be available on my GOODREADS profile under my reading list. So you can check out the other reads that I may not have mentioned. I am reading more of Bengali works these days. So do recommend me some of your regional language or Bengali if you want me to give it a read, especially if it's in translation. It will be easier for me. And yeah, that is about it, guys. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. I hope that you enjoyed these recommendations. Let me know which video you want to see next. Until then, bye-bye.